Welcome to our First 5 Questions series, our monthly video series, which brings together leaders and experts across all fields to talk about childcare challenges and solutions. I'm Sarah Rittling, the Executive Director of the First 5 Years Fund, an organization that focuses on building support for federal policies that strengthen childcare and early learning programs so more families can find and afford the quality care they need. I'm delighted to be joined today by 2 special guests. Liat Krawczyk, who is the Senior Advisor for Workforce and Childcare Strategy at the U.S. Department of Commerce, CHIPS Program Office, and who's helped lead the administration's and department's CHIPS Childcare Implementation Program. And Caitlin Codella, the Vice President of Policy and Programs at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, who develops and oversees the foundation's programs for early childhood education, K-12 education, and its commitment to college and career readiness. Now, I could talk with these two for hours about childcare and early education. They're both experts in their own right with a rich history in the field. But today they're here to talk about an exciting event they're helping to organize. The first of its kind National Child Care Innovation Summit, hosted by the U.S. Department of Commerce and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. In the Chamber's own words, this summit serves as a call to action, underscoring the pivotal role of accessible, affordable childcare in bolstering economic competitiveness and supporting working parents. Welcome, Liat and Caitlin.
Thanks.
Let's get right to it.
Thanks.
Okay, question 1, Caitlin, we're going to start with you. The Chamber of Commerce, particularly at the state and local level, and the Chamber Foundation have been leaders in lifting up employers' concerns about childcare for many years. We know we need a wide range of approaches to tackle childcare challenges in this country. What brought the Chamber to this work, and what level of engagement are you seeing?
Such a great question. The Chamber has been in this for about a decade, which is frankly a new kid on the block when it comes to childcare issues. But it's because we've been hearing about it through state and local chambers across the country, from employers, from Main Street to downtown and across the globe. This issue hits on so many aspects of the work the Chamber does, because childcare is a workforce issue, full stop. If we want to solve workforce, we have to think about the mixed delivery system that plays the integral part of a healthy community. And we are seeing engagement from across the board, and that's some of the reason why we're so excited for the event at the end of the month, because we're going to talk about how companies large and small are taking steps to support the evolving needs of their workforce.
Excellent. Question 2. This one is for you, Liat. You don't necessarily think of the Department of Commerce when you think about childcare, but we all know that Secretary Raimondo has spent her career leading on issues facing children and families, particularly childcare and early education. Can you share a little bit more about how, as secretary, she's been able to not only shine a spotlight on the importance of these issues, but actually leverage the jurisdiction of the department to help actually make a difference?
Absolutely. So, the secretary has shown a light on childcare and integrated it into the fabric of the Commerce Department because she understands that at its core, childcare is an economic issue. Too many families are forced to choose between caring for a loved one or working. And by nature of that being a fact, we are just not meeting our economic potential. We know that care is the work that makes all other work possible. But in the US, we know that it comes at an immense cost to families, to businesses, and to the economy at large, with, childcare challenges for families with 0 to 3-year-olds alone costing us over $120 billion annually. Now, families are going into debt over childcare costs, right? They're 15% of median household income. Childcare Over America just showed that the cost of center-based care for 2 kids alone exceeds the average rent payment for Americans by 25 to 100%. And at the same time, childcare is also at its core an infrastructural issue. So over half of Americans are living in childcare deserts, where demand far outstrips supply. And it really highlights the need for us to think about childcare as economic infrastructure. So the department along with federal, state, and local economic agencies across the country, are really recognizing their role and identifying the levers they have to address childcare in order to successfully strengthen the economy and their communities. And specifically to the Department of Commerce's mission, right? It is to drive U.S. competitiveness, to strengthen domestic industry, and to spur the growth of quality jobs in all communities across the country. And it's with this mission in mind that Secretary Raimondo has worked to really embed childcare considerations into the fabric of our economic development initiatives. So take the CHIPS and Science Act. It allocates about $50 billion to strengthening the U.S. semiconductor sector, while also investing in American workers. A groundbreaking aspect of the implementation is the requirement for companies who apply for over $150 million of manufacturing incentives to provide plans as to how they will provide childcare that is affordable, inclusive, and high quality. So it's a really innovative requirement that addresses a major barrier to workforce participation, namely access to childcare. In addition, childcare considerations are integrated across other programs. This includes the Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment Program, the Economic Development Administration's Recompete Pilot Program, and the Million Women in Construction Initiative. So, the Secretary's integration of childcare as a core part of commerce programs has gotten a lot of attention, which I'm very glad to see. I do hope, though, that in the future, childcare is so ingrained as a core part of our economy, in our programs, that having the Commerce Department engaged on childcare is an assumed issue and not news.
Most excellent. Thank you. Question 3, we're going to go to both of you, and we'll start with you, Caitlin. So you are both teaming up to host the National Child Care Innovation Summit. As we stated earlier, what are your goals and what are you hoping people walk away with at the end of the summit?
Look, I think this is a complex problem, and it's really, really intimidating for the business community to walk into it and not only understand the broad challenges that exist within childcare, but understand the path that they might be able to, wade in this space. Part of the thing that I think, we're both really excited to do in this conference is showcase the breadth and depth of industries that are starting somewhere and that are working on solving this problem in a real way for their employees. And those look really different. There are 9-to-5 employees, there's 24-hour shifts, there's 7 days a week, right? Like, there's a myriad of ways that people are working to solve for childcare issues. And some of those solutions are going to be showcased in the conference at the end of the month. I think what we're hoping for is that at the end of this conference, you almost are able to walk out as if you just took a master class in understanding the space, the challenges, and the next steps for the solutions that might be able to be employed to help your employees.
Tremendous. Liat?
So I am thrilled to work with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the Chamber of Commerce Foundation on this event, because it's really the first event of its kind to really place childcare at the forefront of the business and economic agenda. Having spent years working with employers and localities on childcare in an economic development context, I've seen firsthand the immense transformation that's occurred in this field. Before the pandemic, a lot of the work that we were doing in this space, right, was getting the data to show the economic effects of lack of access to childcare. In a post-pandemic world, it's much more mainstream that businesses recognize that childcare is a key economic issue, and there's a strong desire to make investments and progress in this field. But when you look at, what demand means having both the willingness and the ability to act on providing childcare. And so in that sense, now is the perfect time for the summit. We've reached this critical turning point where childcare is seen as critical infrastructure, but we need to keep this momentum up. And one thing that we see is that in this sector, what plagues it in large part is that you can't be what you can't see. Right? There's an absence of right-sized models and supports that stakeholders can look to as they work to address the childcare crisis in their communities. So many employers want to support their workers and communities in accessing childcare. To Caitlin's point, they don't know where to begin. Who do they turn to for help? And this is particularly true for folks in, so facing some of the toughest use cases, whether that's, rural areas, small businesses, employers with non-traditional hour workers. Many local governments similarly feel really stuck, especially when they don't have, a budget to work with or legislative levers. So, echoing Caitlin, our goal in the summit is really to highlight creative care models, emerging market-based approaches, successful public-private partnerships that have really started to address the childcare crisis. And we really hope that people who are attending the event walk away with a very, much clearer understanding of what steps they can take to support childcare and a renewed commitment to childcare innovation and investment wherever they are in their own roles.
Thank you. Question 4, we're gonna stick with the both of you, and we'll start with you, Liat. We often say childcare means business, and we mean a number of different things by that, but obviously everything you are doing and saying is a great definition. And you are clearly the experts on when it comes to that. So we've talked a little bit about the economic infrastructure and certainly innovation, but can you talk about why it's so important and some bright spots, businesses who've been doing innovative or good things? Because Caitlin, you've been at it for 10 years. Liat, you've been cranking away as well. So I think, just a little bit of what this, given the complexity we all know and are aware of, where are some bright spots?
Sure. So, well, I think where the bright spots start with the fact that employers are really feeling the talent crunch, and they want to do what they can to attract and retain talent. And this in large part means supporting their employees and enabling them to balance work and care needs, right? So a lot of, the potential here in part is that with the right design in place, employers can help bridge at least part of the funding gap in childcare wherever they are based. So just some models that we're seeing emerge, for example, in Oregon, Oregon just established a CHIPS childcare fund, and the fund allows both the public and private sectors to pool resources to defray the cost of childcare for construction apprentices who are going into semiconductor relevant trades. And it also allows both, the private sector and public sector to build infrastructure together that serves the community, but is also near chips fabs. So there's a direct benefit both to the employer, but also to the community at large. And employers also can play a very important part in paying the true cost of care and paying providers upfront, which of course can help increase provider margins, stabilize cash flow, bring better wages to the childcare sector. And as to great models, I'd say wait for the summit. We are going to highlight, CEOs and governors who are investing in the space, but also really showcase how diverse employers across the nation are really stepping up and how they're partnering with various stakeholders from, whether it's local government partners, nonprofits, providers, tech innovators, in order to support their workers. So some of the previews for the day, you're going to meet Hayden, who's a coffee roaster and coffee shop owner who set up a childcare center for his small shop of under 40 employees. You'll hear about how a group of employers from rural Indiana came together to work with their mayor to build childcare for the community. So, from construction to manufacturing to tech companies, employers will speak about how they're very practically working to develop internal practices and how they're working with their community partners to bring childcare to their local workforce.
Great.
I don't think there's a way to follow that, Sarah, but what I can say is Liat is so right. The idea of this summit is to showcase all of the bright spots that are happening. Well, we couldn't even touch on probably a fourth of them that are there is so much that we could have packed into one day. Here's the thing, childcare means business because it is business. And what we want to showcase on the 27th is exactly what that looks like when companies roll up their sleeves and work with their communities to solve a really, really, really important issue. So learn more by coming or watching.
Truly a delight of a public-private partnership for sure. Question 5 is for both of you. Caitlin, we're going to start with you. And the question is, what's your one wish for where we go from here? And Caitlin, specifically, I know we share one wish, which is that the Bills win the Super Bowl.
Right.
But that is not what that's not the path we're going down with this question. So I'm gonna keep it on childcare and let you go first.
Sure. So look, like childcare, I think as we've touched on a handful of times, and Sarah, something that I think you spend a good amount of time thinking about is like, it's not a simple issue and it's not a simple issue to fix. There isn't a one size fits all solution here. There are a lot of ways that states, localities, businesses, community leaders, there are a lot of ways people are working to fix a very complex problem, and there's an enormous opportunity in front of us to work together to accomplish something bigger for the betterment of kids and working parents everywhere. And that's my wish from here.
Liat?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think really it's to, continue to showcase childcare as an economic issue, bring realistic models to the table that anyone can learn from, whether it's a CEO to a small business owner, whether it's a governor to a county official. And then finally, just really setting a table for more public-private dialogue, for more partnerships and policy movements that can solve the immediate needs of, different regions, but also work together towards more, larger national policy solutions.
Wonderful. Well, listen, hosting a first of a kind summit is an incredible undertaking, and I know how busy both of you are. We so appreciate you taking time to give us a little bit of a preview, not just of the summit, but of all the work we have ahead of us together. And I am really excited to be there on the 27th, and I hope anybody who's listening or watching this checks it out online, and certainly there'll be lots of follow-up from here. So thank you, both of you. Best of luck, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so
And
much,
thank
Sarah.
you to the First 5 Years Fund for everything.